When we think about American finance, we usually see the big, flashy stuff on the surface. But what if I told you that behind the curtain, one family didn't just play the game, they built the entire casino? Today, we're diving into the story of one of the most powerful financial dynasties ever, the House of Morgan. And what we're going to find is that their story isn't just about getting rich, it's about designing the very system we're all a part of. Wow, just let that sink in for a second. That's not some random critic. That's a sitting US president. When Woodrow Wilson said this, who on earth was he talking about? Who were these dominant men, so powerful they could control the government itself? Well, according to our source material, the trail leads straight to a financial empire that was built from the ground up to do exactly that. So, to really get the Morgan story, we can't actually start in New York. Nope. We have to go across the ocean to London. Because that's where, as the source material lays out, a secret partnership was born. A partnership that would link Europe's most powerful banking family to America's rising star. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. The House of Morgan didn't just appear out of thin air. The sources suggest they were handpicked, groomed for the role. It starts with this guy, George Peabody, who was basically a secret agent for the Rothschilds in London's financial scene. He passed the firm to Junius Morgan and then to his legendary son, J.P. Morgan, who made it official. He was now the top guy for Rothschild interests in America. So why them? Well, it was all about strategy and maybe a little bit of leverage. The source points to this incident back in 1857. Peabody's firm was about to go bust. Out of nowhere, he gets this massive £800,000 loan from the Bank of England, a move supposedly pulled off by the Rothschilds. You save someone from ruin like that, you've got a loyal partner for life. And this number right here, this just blows my mind. At his peak, everyone thought J.P. Morgan was the richest man in the world, but a congressional report found he owned only 9% of his own company. It really makes you wonder, right? Was he the king of his own empire? Or was he just the most powerful frontman in history, working for someone else behind the scenes? Okay, so with this incredibly powerful connection in place, the stage was set for their defining moment. And for the House of Morgan, that moment was the Panic of 1907. But as our sources argue, this wasn't some random accident. Oh no, this was a crisis that created the perfect opportunity to completely rebuild American finance in their own image. Just try to picture the scene. A wild attempt to corner the copper market goes bad, and suddenly, rumors are flying that one of New York's biggest banks is about to collapse. Total panic sets in. People are lining up for blocks, trying to get their life savings out before the doors slam shut forever. It's absolute chaos. And what you're seeing here is a classic bank run. It's just a crisis of pure fear. And back in 1907, that fear was contagious. As one bank went down, people got scared about the next and the next. The entire system was on the verge of imploding, and there was no central bank to step in and stop it. And who steps into this mess? None other than J.P. Morgan. He literally locks the country's most powerful bankers in his library and doesn't let them leave until they agree to pony up the cash to save the system. To the public, he was a hero, the only man strong enough to prevent a total meltdown. But behind the scenes, he was pulling off the biggest power play of his entire life. Okay, get this. In the middle of all the chaos, a big brokerage firm is about to fail. Their main asset? Stock in the Tennessee Coal and Iron Company, the biggest rival to Morgan's own U.S. Steel. So Morgan uses the panic as leverage. He gets President Teddy Roosevelt to personally sign off on a takeover, ignoring all the antitrust laws. He snatched up a company worth about $1 billion for only $45 million. He didn't just stop the panic, he used it to create a monopoly. But the Panic of 1907 did something else, something even bigger. It made everyone scream, "We need a central bank. This can never happen again." And wouldn't you know it, the very same men who just made a fortune from the crisis were the first to raise their hands and say, "Don't worry, we'll design one for you." So, in 1910, something straight out of a spy novel happens. A small group of the world's most powerful men sneak onto a private train car in the middle of the night. Their secret destination? Jekyll Island, a super exclusive club co-owned by J.P. Morgan himself. They told everyone they were going on a duck hunt, but they weren't there to hunt ducks. They were there to hunt for the future of the American dollar. I mean, just look at this guest list. This was not a government committee. This was a secret meeting of private bankers. You've got Senator Aldrich, who was tied to the Rockefellers. You've got JP Morgan's right-hand men. And right there, Paul Warburg, a direct representative for the Rothschilds. These guys were designing America's central bank for America in total secrecy. So the source claims these guys were smart. They knew that calling it a central bank sounded, well, a little too European and controlling. It would never get approved. So Paul Warburg had this brilliant marketing idea. Let's call it the Federal Reserve System. It sounds official, it sounds governmental, but at its heart, it was a system where private banks, like Morgan's, would literally own the shares of the regional Fed banks. So, the Federal Reserve is officially born in 1913, and now the House of Morgan has the ultimate tool, a lender of last resort and a way to print money to fund, well, pretty much anything. And its first big test came almost immediately, World War I. Right away, the Morgan Bank becomes the go-to banker for the Allied powers. They organized a staggering $3 billion in loans. And for their trouble, they took a simple 1% commission. A cool $30 million. In today's money, that's nearly $1 billion. The war was very, very profitable, and the new Fed system made it all happen. The money from the war was one thing, but the real prize was the system itself, a system that's been running for over 100 years. So how does that legacy, born in crisis and secret meetings, actually show up today? Well, that brings us to the modern version of the dynasty, JP Morgan Chase. Okay, let's try to wrap our heads around one of the biggest, most complicated markets in the world, interest rate derivatives. Think of them as giant insurance policies or bets on where interest rates are going. And JP Morgan Chase, they don't just play in this market, they basically are the market. At one point, they controlled $74 trillion worth. That's not a typo, that's trillion with a T. It was more than 5 times the entire US economy. So here is the absolute kicker. Why would any bank take on that much risk? Well, the source material gives a pretty stunning answer. It's not a risk if you already know the outcome. As one of the main shareholders of the New York Fed, JP Morgan Chase isn't just trying to guess what the Fed will do, they have a seat at the very table where those decisions are made. And that leaves us with this one final, really provocative question. The source compares it to a company that can literally control the weather and then turns around and sells you flood insurance. It's the ultimate casino where the house always, always wins. So you have to ask, in a system like that, are they really managing risk or are they just manufacturing it for profit?